My name is Tessa Mayers. I'm 31. And 2 years ago, my dad disowned me by text message. 14 hours before I walked down the aisle, my phone buzzed with 6 words from my father. You are no longer my daughter. And then my mother, my brother, and 3 of my aunts all backed him up. Every single one of them. Because I wouldn't add 4 names to my guest list. 4 names. 4 kids I'd met a handful of times. That's all it took to lose my entire family overnight. But here's the part that kept me up at 3:00 in the morning 2 years later. My father didn't come back because he missed me. He came back because he needed my signature on one document. And when I wrote back 4 words, his entire retirement plan fell apart. Before I take you back to that night, please take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you all are listening from. Now, let me take you back to a Friday evening in September, the night before my wedding, and the last time I heard my father's voice for 2 years. But first, I need to tell you about my grandmother. Ruth Mayers was the kind of woman who kept a jar of butterscotch candies on her kitchen counter and called everyone sweetheart, even the mailman. She lived alone in a little Cape Cod house outside Zanesville, Ohio, with a garden that produced more tomatoes than any one person could eat. And she gave the extras away in brown paper bags with handwritten notes tucked inside. She was the only person in my family who never made love feel like a transaction. When I was 27, Grandma Ruth got diagnosed with lung cancer. Stage 4. They found it late. She'd been coughing for months, but kept saying it was just the dust from her garden. By the time I drove down to see her, she was already on oxygen, sitting in her recliner with a blanket over her knees, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. I stayed 3 weeks, slept on her couch, cooked her soups she barely touched. One afternoon, this was maybe 4 days before she passed, she grabbed my hand and squeezed it harder than I thought she had left in her. I set something aside for you, she said. Don't let anyone tell you it belongs to them. I didn't understand. I thought she meant the house or maybe her rings. I kissed her forehead and told her to rest. She died on a Thursday morning in March. I was holding her hand. It wasn't until 2 years later, 2 years after my wedding, 2 years after that text message, that I finally understood what she meant. Grandma Ruth had named me as the sole beneficiary on her retirement account. Not my father, not my uncle, me. And that one decision she made would change everything. My parents divorced when I was 14. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no thrown dishes, just my mother sitting at the kitchen table one morning telling me and my brother Kyle that Dad was moving into an apartment across town. Kyle cried. I didn't. I just ate my cereal and went to school. My father wasn't a bad dad back then. He was strict. The kind of man woke expected a firm handshake and a yes, sir. But he showed up. He came to my volleyball games. He helped me with algebra even though he hated math. He drove me to Grandma Ruth's every other weekend without complaining. Gary Mayers was a decent father, just not a flexible one. Then he met Jolene. I was 20 when he brought her to Thanksgiving. She was 10 years younger with a big laugh and 4 kids from her first marriage. Cody, Amber, Tyler, and Lily, ages 10, 7, 5, and 3. They tumbled out of Hermanivan like a circus act. And just like that, my father had a whole new family. Things shifted fast. Dad started calling Jolene's kids my kids. He wanted me to call them my siblings. He expected birthday cards, Christmas presents, Sunday dinners together, and I did it. Every time he asked, I said yes. I drove 2 hours for Amber's ballet recital. I bought Tyler a skateboard I couldn't afford. I babysat Lily 3 weekends in a row so Dad and Jolene could go to Myrtle Beach. And every time I said yes, my father wrote it down in some invisible ledger as proof that I would always say yes. He never once asked if I wanted to. He just assumed I would. And for 9 years, he was right. Jolene was smart about it. I'll give her that. She never confronted me directly. Not at first. She worked through my father, feeding him small complaints that built up over the years like sediment. I missed Cody's high school graduation party because I had a work deadline. Jolene told my dad I didn't think her kids were important enough. I forgot to comment on a family photo she posted on Facebook. All 6 of them on a porch swing. No me anywhere in the frame. She told my dad I was rejecting the family. Every missed event, every delayed text, every time I chose something in my own life over one of her expectations, Jolene collected them. She kept a running tally of slights that only existed in her head, and she presented them to my father like evidence. "Your daughter doesn't accept our family," shuttled him. I know because he called me and repeated it word for word, his voice flat and hard. "Dad, that's not true. I just had to work. Jolene is my wife. Her kids are my kids now. If you can't accept that, we have a problem. I do accept it. I just can't be at every single you don't get to pick which parts of this family you belong to, Tessa." And there it was. The ultimatum that had been building for years, finally said out loud. In my father's mind, loyalty was binary, all in or all out. There was no middle ground, no room for a 30-year-old woman with her own job and her own life to set reasonable limits. I should have seen what was coming. But I kept believing that if I was reasonable enough, he'd be reasonable back. That was my mistake. I kept expecting fairness from someone who only understood control. Marcus and I got engaged in June. We planned a small wedding, 60 guests, a farm-to-table restaurant outside Columbus. Everything paid for out of our own savings. No help from anyone. Our guest list was tight: 30 from Marcus's side, 30 from mine, and every seat accounted for. 3 weeks before the wedding, my father called. "You need to add Jolene's kids to the list." I was sitting at my desk at work, a spreadsheet open on my screen. I closed my eyes. "Dad, the venue is full. 60 seats. They're all taken." Then cut someone. "I'm not cutting Marcus Cousins to add 4 people I've met 6 times in 10 years. Those are my children, Tessa. They're Jolene's children, and I offer Red to invite them to the after-party. An after-party. Like they're not good enough for the real thing. That's not what I said. It's what you meant, Dad. Marcus and I are paying for this ourselves. Every dollar. I planned this for a year. The seating chart is done. The caterer is locked. The either all of them come or I don't come. Silence. I let it sit for 5 seconds, then 10. "I'm sorry you feel that way," I said. He hung up. That was a Thursday evening. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes staring at the windshield. I told myself he'd cool down. He always made threats when he was angry, and he always walked them back. This would be the same. He'd call tomorrow, grumble a little, and show up at the wedding in his navy suit. By Friday morning, I had 6 words on my screen that I will never forget. I'm going to pause here for a second because I know some of you are already typing. You're thinking, "Just add them, Tessa. It's 4 seats. Keep the peace." And I understand that. I really do, because that's exactly what I told myself for 10 years. If you've ever been the one who always gives in to keep your family together, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next is the moment I stopped. Let me keep going. Friday morning, September 14th, 14 hours before my wedding. I was standing in Marcus' bathroom in my robe, holding my dress on a hanger against my chest, checking the hem one last time. My phone was on the counter. It buzzed once. I glanced down. "Dad," 6 words. No greeting, no preamble, no phone call. "First, you are no longer my daughter." I read it twice, then a 3rd time. I kept waiting for a follow-up, a "just kidding," a "call me something." The screen stayed dark. I sat down on the tile floor. The dress was still in my hands, the satin bunching against my knees. I could feel the cold of the grout through my robe. I didn't cry. I just sat there thinking, he didn't even call. 31 years. And he couldn't pick up the phone. He typed 6 words, hit send, and went on with his morning. Marcus found me 20 minutes later. He opened the door, saw me on the floor, and his face changed. He didn't ask. He just sat down beside me, took my phone, and read the screen. He stared at it for a long time. Then he sat it face down on the counter and put his arm around me. "We don't have to do anything about this today," he said. "I know. We're getting married tomorrow, I know, and he's going to have to live with this." I leaned into him and closed my eyes. The bathroom smelled like tile cleaner and Marcus soap. Outside the window, I could hear a neighbor's sprinkler clicking back and forth. Somewhere across town, my father was probably eating breakfast. And then my phone started buzzing again. Not him, everyone else. The messages came in a chain, one after another, like someone had sent out a group signal. First, my mother. Deanne, your father has a point. You should apologize before it's too late. No, are you okay? No, what happened? Just a verdict. Then Kyle, my 24-year-old brother who still lived in my father's basement. Way to ruin everything, sis. Then Aunt Patty. You've always been selfish, Tessa, even as a little girl. Aunt Linda. Jalene's kids are family now, whether you like it or not. And finally, Aunt Brenda, who sent a disappointed face emoji, followed by 7 words that hit harder than all the rest. Your grandmother would be ashamed of you. I sat on that bathroom floor and read every single one. Nobody called. Nobody asked for my side. Nobody said, wait, what actually happened? They just lined up behind my father like they'd rehearsed it. Marcus watched my face as I scrolled. Who's texting? Everyone. What are they saying? I handed him the phone. He read through the messages, his jaw tightening with each one. Not one of them asked you what happened, he said. No, not one. I took the phone back. I opened my screenshots folder and saved every message. My father's, my mother's, Kyle's, all 3 aunts, one by one, methodical, the way Iffle receipts at work. Then I powered off my phone, set it in the nightstand drawer, and closed it. I'm going to take a shower, I said. And then I'm going to try on my dress one more time. Marcus nodded. Aunt Brenda had invoked my grandmother to shame me. She had no idea that Grandma Ruth was the one person in this family who would have driven 3 hours to walk me down that aisle herself. The wedding was beautiful. I need you to know that. The restaurant had string lights draped across the patio and wildflower arrangements in mason jars. The weather held 72 degrees clear sky. The kind of September evening that makes you believe the universe is paying attention. Marcus' side filled up fast. His parents, his sister, cousins, college friends, co-workers, 30 seats, everyone taken. My side had the caterer, my college roommate Bria, 2 friends from work, and silence. 6 chairs sat empty at the table reserved for my family. White napkins folded into fans, water glasses filled to the brim, place cards with names nobody would answer to. Gary, Diane, Kyle, Patty, Linda, Brenda. The restaurant manager came over halfway through cocktail hour. Should we clear the empty settings? Marcus looked at the table, then at me. Leave it, he said. Someone should see it. I didn't argue. He was right. Those empty chairs said more than any speech could. Richard Webb, Marcus's father, a retired estate lawyer with kind eyes and a firm handshake, walked over to me before the ceremony. I hadn't asked anyone. I'd planned to walk alone. I'd be honored, he said. If you'd let me walk with you. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. He offered his arm and we walked down that aisle together, past Marcus's family, past my empty chairs, past the place cards that would go home untouched. I danced the first dance with Marcus to a song Grandma Ruth used to hum when she watered her garden. I didn't tell anyone that. It was just for me and her. At the end of the night, Marcus pulled me close. You didn't lose a family tonight, he said. They lost you. We didn't talk about my father again for 2 years. And then one Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. I should back up because there's a piece I haven't told you yet. The phone call that happened before my father's text. The one that lit the fuse. Thursday night, about an hour before my dad sent those 6 words, my phone rang. It was Jalene. She never called me. In 11 years, I could count our one-on-one conversations on one hand. So when I saw her name on the screen, my stomach dropped. Tessa, we need to talk about tomorrow. Jalene, the rehearsal dinner is at 6. You and Dad or my kids are crying because they weren't invited to your wedding. They were invited to the after party. I explained that to Dad. An after party, like their second class. The venue only holds 60. Every seat is their children. Tessa, you're the adult here. I understand that, but the caterer is locked in. The seating chart is so move people around. Cut one of your little friends. Jalene, I'm not rearranging my wedding the night before. Then I'll tell your father exactly how you feel about his family. She said it the way someone lays down a winning card. Calm, final, like she'd been holding it for years. That's not what I click. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. 6 words from my father. Jalene had taken our conversation and repackaged it. She didn't tell him I'd offered the after party. She didn't tell him about the 60-seat limit. She told him his daughter said his new family was second class. She handed him a grenade and let him pull the pin. And he did without calling me first, without asking what actually happened. He chose Jolene's version over a 30-second phone call to his own daughter. That's the part I keep coming back to. He didn't even check. After my father's text, the first person I called was my mother. I know you'd think I'd have learned by then, but there's something hardwired in you, no matter how old you are, that makes you reach for your mom when the ground gives out. The phone rang twice. Mom, Dad just disowned me. By text message, a pause, I heard her exhale. Honey, can't you just add them? It's one day. Mom, he said I'm no longer his daughter. He's upset. He'll come around, but you need to apologize first. Apologize for what? For making this harder than it needs to be. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it like the screen might rearrange itself into something that made sense. Mom, my wedding is tomorrow. He disowned me over 4 seats. It's not about the seats, Tessa. It's about respect. Respect for who? Another pause, longer this time. I could hear the TV on in the background. Some game show. Audience applause. She hadn't even muted it. Your father helps me with certain things, she said carefully. My insurance, some bills I can't afford to, she stopped, but I heard it. The sentence she didn't finish landed harder than the one she did. My mother chose her health insurance over her daughter. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because it's what happened. She ran the numbers in her head, what she'd lose if she stood up for me versus what it cost to stay quiet. And she picked the cheaper option. I hope you can live with that, Mom. I said, Tessa, don't be dramatic. I hung up and I didn't call her again for 730 days. Kyle called 20 minutes after my mother. I let it ring 3 times before I picked up. Some part of me still hoped my little brother would surprise me. Tessa, just do what Dad says. You're making everyone miserable. Did you read what he sent me, Kyle? Yeah, but you know how he is. Just apologize and move on. He disowned me. He's bluffing. Just say sorry and this all goes away. I have nothing to apologize for. Then I guess you're on your own. He hung up. 26 years old, living in Dad's house, driving a truck my father co-signed. I couldn't expect him to bite the hand that paid his rent, but hearing it still left a mark. The aunts came as a group text. Patty, Linda, and Brenda. My mother's sisters. They'd heard Diane's version off the story, which was Gary's version, which was Jolene's version, which bore almost no resemblance to anything that actually happened. In their minds, Tessa was a spoiled brat who refused to let innocent children attend a family wedding because she didn't like her father's new wife. That was the narrative. Clean, simple, and completely wrong. Nobody asked me. Nobody said, hey, what's your side? They just picked up their phones and piled on. I sat on the edge of Marcus' bed, reading message after message, and I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, something quieter. The realization that this family had never once required the full story before passing judgment. The speed of it told me everything. They'd been waiting for a reason to confirm what they already believed about me. I sat down the phone and looked at Marcus. I'm getting married tomorrow, I said. That's the only thing that matters right now. I walked down that aisle the next day with my head up, and I didn't look back for 730 days. 2 years went by. I want to tell you they were dramatic, but they weren't. They were quiet, and the quiet was the best part. Marcus and I bought a small house in Westerville, 3 bedrooms, a fenced backyard, a kitchen with enough counter space for me to actually cook. I got promoted to senior accountant at the distribution company where I'd worked since college. Marcus picked up a supervisor role at his HVAC firm. We saved, we built. And then Nora came. 7B40, born on a Wednesday in April with her father's dark eyes and a scream that could rattle windows. I held her against my chest in the delivery room and whispered, nobody is going to put conditions on loving you. During those 2 years, I didn't contact my father. I didn't block him. Blocking felt like an act, and I was done performing. I just stopped responding. If he'd called to apologize, I would have listened. He never did. My mother sent 2 text messages in 24 months. Both said, thinking of you. Neither mentioned the wedding, the downing, or the words, sorry. I read them and closed the app. I started therapy 6 months after the wedding. My therapist, Dr. Adler, asked me during one session, what would it take for you to reconnect with your family? I thought for a long time, an apology that doesn't start with but. She nodded and wrote something down. One other thing happened during those 2 years. A letter arrived from a financial management firm. An annual statement, foreign inherited IRA account in Grandma Ruth's name. Beneficiary Tessa A. Mayers. I read it, filed it in my cabinet under important, and went back to changing Nora's diaper. I didn't give it another thought. Not then. It came up over dinner at the Webb's house, the way important things sometimes do, casually, between bites of pot roast. Marcus' parents had us over every other Sunday. Richard would grill or roast something. Patricia would set the table with real napkins, and we'd eat in their dining room with Nora in a high chair between us, mashing peas with her fist. I mentioned the letter offhand. Got another statement from Grandma Ruth's retirement account. The one where I'm listed as the beneficiary. Richard set down his fork. Inherited IRA, I think so. It comes once a year. I just file it. Tessa, do you know what that means legally? Not really. I assumed it was just a formality until the estate settles. Richard leaned back. He'd spent 30 years in estate and real estate law before retiring. And when he shifted into that mode, slower speech, precise words, you paid attention. An inherited IRA with a named beneficiary, that's you, can't be redirected without your written consent. It doesn't go through probate. It doesn't belong to the estate. It belongs to you directly the moment the account holder passed. So my dad can't touch it. Not without your signature. If he was counting on that money for his retirement, he has a problem he can't solve without you. I stared at my plate. Why would he be counting on it? Grandma left it to me. Richard picked up his fork and cut a piece of meat, because some people assume family means eventually mine. I let it sit, filed the information the same way I filed the statement under important in the back of my mind. I didn't think about that conversation again until my father called. It was a Tuesday, 2:30 in the afternoon. Nora was in her high chair working on a bowl of mashed banana with more enthusiasm than accuracy. I was wiping the counter when me phone lit up on the table. Gary Mayers. I froze. My hand stopped mid-wipe. Banana smeared on the sponge. The phone rang 4 times. I watched it until it went to voicemail. 30 seconds later, the notification popped up. I pressed play and held the phone to my ear. Hey, Tessie. His voice was warm, almost gentle. He hadn't called me Tessie since I was in high school. It's Dad. I've been thinking a lot lately about you, about everything. I miss you, sweetheart. I'd really love to talk. Give me a call when you get a chance. I played it twice. Then I set the phone on the counter and looked at Nora. She had banana in her eyebrow. Marcus came home at 5:30. I played him the voicemail while he unlaced his boots. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to know why now. You think something happened? My father went 730 days without calling me. He didn't call when Nora was born. He didn't call on my birthday. He didn't call on Grandma Ruth's anniversary. And now out of nowhere, he misses me. Marcus pulled off his second boot and set it by the door. Could be genuine, he said. Could be. But you don't think so. I shook my head. Genuine people don't wait 2 years and then use your childhood nickname. I didn't call back. I didn't text. I just waited. 3 days later, he called again. And this time he mentioned a document. This time I picked up. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to hear him say it out loud. Tessie, I'm so glad you answered. Hi, Dad. Listen, I want to make things right. I've had a lot off time to think, and I know I handled the wedding wrong. I do. I leaned against the kitchen counter and said nothing. Let him fill the silence. And look, there's a small paperwork thing from Grandma's estate. Just a signature real quick. Nothing complicated. The lawyer says you need to sign off on something. There it was, tucked in right after. I want to make things right, like a PS on a greeting card. What paperwork? Something with her retirement account. It's just a formality. Which retirement account? The IR, you're listed on it. The lawyer just needs your signature to move things along. Move things along to where Dad, a pause. I could hear him recalibrating, choosing his words, to get it squared away. For the family, for the family. There it was again. That word used like a skeleton key to unlock whatever he wanted. I'll think about it, I said. Great. That's great, Tessie, and we should get together. I'd love to meet Marcus properly. And I heard about the baby. You heard. Kyle mentioned it, Nora. Her name is Nora. She's 6 months old. Silence. That's a beautiful name, he said. I hung up and sat at the kitchen table for a long time. Nora was napping in the next room and the house was perfectly quiet. He didn't call because he missed me. He called because he needed my name on a piece of paper. And the warmth in his voice, the Tessie, the sweetheart, was just the packaging. Within a week, my phone lit up like a switchboard. Jolene texted first, a long message carefully crafted, the kind that gets drafted and redrafted before sending. Tessa, I know we've had our differences, but I truly believe families should find a way back to each other. We all made mistakes. I'd love for the kids to meet baby Nora. Can we start fresh? I read it twice, looking for the word sorry. It wasn't there. Then my mother called. Diane hadn't called me in 2 years, and now her voice was bright, almost cheerful. Isn't it wonderful that your father's reaching out? This is your chance to fix things, sweetheart. He mentioned a document, Mom. Well, I'm sure that's just a small thing. The important part is he wants to reconnect. Did he ask you to call me? Pause. Tessa, don't be like that. Aunt Patty mailed a Hallmark card, the kind with a sunrise on the front and a pre-printed message about forgiveness. She wrote inside, "Life is too short for grudges. Love, Patty." Kyle texted, "Dad's been really down, sis. He just wants to see his granddaughter. Can you cut him some slack?" I sat on the couch and scrolled through every message, every voicemail, every card. And I noticed something. They'd all reached out within the same 7-day window. Jolene on Monday, Mom on Wednesday, Patty's card arrived Thursday, Kyle on Friday. This wasn't organic. Someone had made calls, coordinated timing, assigned roles. This was a campaign. And not one of them, not a single person in that entire orchestrated effort mentioned the document. They wanted me soft and grateful and ready to sign before I even knew what I was signing. I put my phone in a drawer and went to play with my daughter. The next Sunday at the Webb's house, I brought the annual IRA statement and spread it on the dining table after dessert. "Richard, I need your help understanding something." He put on his reading glasses and studied the document. Patricia took Nora to the living room. Marcus sat beside me. "This is a substantial account," Richard said, looking up over his glasses. "Your grandmother was diligent." "How much Arrow talking about?" "Based on this statement, around 280,000, give or take market fluctuation." The number landed in my chest like a stone. And my dad wants me to sign it over to him. That would be my guess. If he's asking about a formality or a signature, he likely wants you to disclaim your beneficiary status so the funds route to the contingent beneficiary, which is almost certainly him. Can he force me? No, you're the primary beneficiary. Your grandmother designated you specifically. Without your signature, that designation stands. What happens to his retirement plan if I don't sign? Richard folded his hands over the statement. If your father structured his retirement around accessing these funds, and based on the timeline and his age, I'd wager he did, then without this money, his numbers don't work. He'd face mandatory distribution rules, potential tax penalties, and a significant shortfall. His retirement timeline collapses. Marcus exhaled. He planned his whole retirement around money that was never his. Richard nodded. He assumed Tessa would hand it over when asked because she always had. I stared at the numbers on the page. $280,000. My grandmother's life savings left to me. Not because I asked, but because she knew. She knew that one day I'd need it to be mine, not theirs. Against my better judgment, I agreed to let my father come to Nora's first birthday party. I told myself I was giving him a chance. Maybe I was testing him. Maybe I just wanted to see if Heck could walk through my front door and be a grandfather without an agenda. 15 friends and Marcus's family, balloons on the mailbox, a sheet cake from the bakery down the street with Nora's name and pink frosting. It was supposed to be simple. They arrived together, all of them. Gary, Jolene, my mother, Kyle, even the 3 aunts, like a delegation. Jolene brought a gift bag the size of a suitcase. My mother hugged me at the door and whispered, "I'm so glad we're doing this." The first hour went fine. Gary held Nora awkwardly, like someone handling a product he'd read about but never used. Jolene took photos. Kyle ate 3 slices of cake. The aunts hovered near the drink table, chatting with Marcus's sister. Then, just before we cut the cake, my father stood up. He tapped his plastic cup with a fork. The yard got quiet. I just want to say how proud I am of my daughter," he began. His voice carried, "and how grateful I am that we can all be here together today. Family is everything." Jeline nodded. My mother pressed a tissue to her eye. The aunts smiled. "I believe in second chances," he continued. "And I hope today is a new beginning for all of us, our whole family together." He looked at me across the table. "Tessa, I know you'll do the right thing." A few of Marcus' friends clapped, confused. They didn't know what was happening. I did. He reached into his sport coat and pulled out a manila envelope. He laid it on the table in front of me, right next to the cake knife and the stack of pastel napkins. "Just a quick signature, sweetheart. Then we can all move forward." Every set of eyes in that yard turned to me. Marcus's friends, his coworkers, his parents, people who had no idea what was inside that envelope. They just saw a father handing his daughter something important, and they waited. I looked at the envelope, then at my father, then at Nora, balanced on Marcus's hip, reaching for a balloon string. My father's expression was warm, confident. He'd staged this perfectly, a public moment surrounded by witnesses wrapped in the language of forgiveness. He believed I wouldn't say no in front of all these people. He'd counted on it. "Not here," I said. My voice was steady. "Not today. This is my daughter's birthday." Gary smiled and picked up the envelope. "Of course, sure. We'll set up a meeting." He said it like it was nothing. A minor delay, a rain check. But I watched Jeline's face and her mask slipped for half a second. She leaned toward my mother and whispered just loud enough. "I told you she'd stall." I heard every word. I didn't react. I picked up the cake knife, sliced Nora's birthday cake into even squares, and served every person at that table a piece, including my father. "Cake," I said, holding out his plate. He took it. He had no choice. Marcus caught my eye across the yard. He gave me the smallest nod, the kind that said everything without a syllable. The rest of the party went on. Nora smashed cake in her hair. People sang. And that manila envelope sat in my father's jacket like a grenade that didn't go off. "Right now, I need you to do something for me." If you've ever had someone in your family use a celebration, a birthday, a holiday, a gathering to ambush you with their agenda, type "been there" in the comments because I need to know I'm not the only one. And if this story is hitting close to home, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Now, let me tell you what I did next. The party ended at 4:00. By 4:30, everyone was gone. Marcus put Nora down for a nap. I sat at the kitchen table with my phone and pulled up the photo I'd taken of the document inside that envelope. I'd snapped it when my father went to the bathroom right before he left. Sunday morning, I drove to Richard's house with the photo on my screen. He studied it at his desk, reading glasses low on his nose, coffee going cold beside his elbow. "It's a beneficiary disclaimer," he said. "If you sign this, you voluntarily relinquish your status as primary beneficiary on Ruth's inherited IRA. The funds would then pass to the contingent beneficiary. My father, your father." I sat down in the chair across from him. "So if I sign, he gets the full $280,000. Correct. He'd roll it into his own retirement plan and use it to fund his early retirement. Based on what you've told me about his age and timeline, this is the centerpiece of his financial plan. And if I don't sign, the money stays designated to you. He can't access it. He can't redirect it. He has no mechanism to force your hand. What happens to his retirement?" Richard took off his glasses and set them on the desk. "The IRA he's been counting on doesn't exist for him. If he tries to access the funds through other means, he'll face mandatory distribution taxes and early withdrawal penalties. His retirement timeline collapses. We're talking years of additional work." I leaned back in the chair and stared at the ceiling. "He built his entire retirement on money my grandmother left me," I said, without ever asking me. "That's exactly what he did. And then he disowned me." Richard just looked at me. He didn't need to say anything else. "I didn't decide right away. I want you to know that. I went home and sat with it for 3 days. I replayed the arguments in my head, the ones for signing and the ones against. If I signed, my father would get the money and disappear again. The reconciliation, the birthday party, the I miss you voicemails, all of it would evaporate the second his pen hit the deposit slip. But he'd leave me alone. The pressure would stop. If I didn't sign, I'd be the reason his retirement fell apart. That's how they'd frame it. Not Gary planned his future around money that wasn't his. It would be Tessa punished her own father. I sat on the back porch after Nora went to sleep. Marcus brought me a cup of tea and sat in the other chair. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you," he said. "I know, no pressure from me, I know that too." He went inside. I stayed out watching the fireflies blink in the yard. I thought about Grandma Ruth's hand squeezing mine. Don't let anyone tell you it belongs to them. I thought about 6 words on a screen. 730 days of nothing. A manila envelope laid next to my daughter's birthday cake. And I thought about 29 years of saying yes. 29 years of showing up, driving 2 hours, buying gifts I couldn't afford, rearranging my life so my father could feel like he was in charge. And the one time I said no. One time he erased me with a text message. I finished my tea. "I'm not signing," I said to the empty yard. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted to stop being the person everyone counted on to fold. My father set up the meeting for a Thursday morning at 10:00. His lawyer's office in downtown Lancaster, a squat brick building with a parking lot full of pickup trucks and a receptionist who looked like she'd been there since the Carter administration. Gary called me the night before to confirm. "Just a quick meeting, 30 minutes, then we'll go to lunch." "I'll let you know," I said. Thursday morning, 10:00. I was at home. Nora was in her bouncer kicking at a stuffed giraffe. Marcus was at work. The coffee maker beeped. I poured a cup and sat down. My phone buzzed at 10:05. "Gary, we're here. Where are you?" I took a sip of coffee, set the phone face down. 10. Another buzz. "Gary, Tessa, 10:15. A call, I let it go to voicemail. 10:18. Jolene texting, "Your father is sitting here waiting for you, don't do this." 10:20. Gary again, "Wariel waiting for you." I could picture it, the 3 of them in that small conference room, my father in his good shirt, Jolene with her purse on her lap. And her jaw set, the lawyer with the documents fanned out on the table, a pen placed precisely inside the signature line. They'd rehearsed this. They'd driven 40 minutes. They'd blocked out the morning. And they were waiting for me to walk through the door because in their version of this story, I always walked through the door. I picked up my phone. My father was sitting in a lawyer's office staring at his screen, fully confident that his daughter would show up because she always had, because she always folded, because she was Tessa. And Tessa said yes. I opened the text thread and started typing 4 words. "I am not signing." I hit send, set the phone on the counter, and went back to my coffee. In that conference room 40 minutes away, my father's phone buzzed. I know what happened next because Kyle told me later not to help me. But because he couldn't keep it inside, Gary read the message. His face didn't change at first. He just stared at the screen like it was in a language he didn't recognize. Jolene leaned over. "What did she say?" He turned the phone toward her. She read it, then looked at the lawyer, then back at Gary. "That's it," she said. 4 words. The lawyer glanced at the screen, closed the folder on the table, and clicked his pen shut. "Without her signature, Mr. Mayers, we can't proceed." The beneficiary designation stands. Garicled me. I didn't answer. He called again, voicemail. A 3rd time, voicemail, then a text. "Tessa, please, this is serious." I read it while Nora chewed on a teething ring in my lap. I set the phone down, didn't reply. He sent 3 more messages over the next hour, each one a little more desperate than the last. "Can we at least talk about this? I'm your father, Tessa. You're going to regret this." I didn't respond to any of them. He disowned me in 6 words. I answered in 4, and I think that was more than generous. Marcus came home that evening and found me on the couch, Nora asleep on my chest. "Did you go?" he asked. "No. Did you tell him?" 4 words. He sat down next to me and put his hand on my knee. "How do you feel?" I looked down at Nora, her tiny fist curled around my collar. "Done," I said. "I feel done." The fallout was financial, mechanical, and immediate. Gary's lawyer explained it to him that same afternoon. Kyle told me this 2 months later in a conversation I'll get to. Without my signature, the inherited IRA remained in my name. Gary couldn't access the funds, couldn't reroute them, couldn't appeal. The beneficiary designation was ironclad. Grandma Ruth had made sure of that. Gary had planned to retire at 60. He was 58. His plan was simple. Combined Social Security, a small pension from the factory, and the IRA, roughly $280,000 to cover his living expenses from 60 onward. Without the IRA, the math broke. Not bent, broke. His lawyer told him he'd need to work at least 7 more years to replace the shortfall. 7 years at a factory that had already cut his hours once. 7 years at 58 with bad knees and a back that cracked every morning. He went back to work the following Monday, not to his old position that had been filled. He took a line supervisor role, lower pay, longer hours, reporting to a man 15 years younger. Jolene didn't take it well. She'd married Gary with a certain understanding of what their future would look like. Early retirement, travel, a slower pace. That future now had a 7-year delay stapled to it. "Can't we sue?" she asked the lawyer. Kyle said the lawyer didn't even pause. Sue for what? The account was never his. 5 words that matched the weight of my 4. That evening, according to Kyle, Gary sat in his truck in the driveway for 45 minutes. Engine off. Didn't come inside. Jolene watched from the kitchen window. "I don't take pleasure in that image. I just want you to know it happened." The calls started again, but this time they sounded different. No warmth. "No, Tessie, just panic dressed up as guilt." My mother called first. "Tessa, what have you done? Your father is devastated." "He'll figure it out. He had 2 years to apologize. This isn't about an apology. This is about his future. It's about Grandma Ruth's money, Mom, money she left to me." "Silence, then. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference." She hung up. The last sound I heard was a ragged breath, the kind that comes right before tears or fury. I couldn't tell which. Kyle called the next day. "You're really going to let Dad lose everything over a grudge?" "It's not a grudge, Kyle. It's a decision." "Same thing. No, it's not. A grudge is wanting someone to suffer. A decision is choosing not to participate. I'm not punishing him. I'm just not helping him anymore. He didn't have a response for that." Aunt Patty called, crying. "Your grandmother would never have wanted this." "Grandma Ruth left that money to me, Aunt Patty, not to him. She chose me specifically." Patty went quiet. I could almost hear the thought forming. The realization that Ruth hadn't accidentally left me as beneficiary. She'd done it on purpose because she knew. The last call came from Aunt Brenda, the one who texted, "Your grandmother would be ashamed of you the day before my wedding." This time her voice was smaller. "Did Ruth really leave it directly to you?" "She did. Not to Gary, not to Gary." A long silence. I could hear a clock ticking on her end. "I didn't know that." She said, "You didn't ask." I said, "2 years ago when you texted me, you didn't ask about that either." She hung up without saying goodbye. 3 weeks after the meeting, that didn't happen. My father called one last time. It was late, almost 9. Nora was asleep. Marcus was watching baseball in the living room. I was loading the dishwasher. I looked at the screen. Gary Mayers. I picked up Tessa. "Hi, Dad." His face was different, stripped down. No charm, no nickname, no angle, just a man on the other end of a phone who sounded tired. "I made a mistake," he said. "I shouldn't have sent that text." "Which text?" "The one where you disowned me or the one where you asked me to sign?" Silence long enough that I heard the dishwasher cycle click behind me. "Both," he said. I leaned against the counter. Part of me, the 14-year-old part, the part that still remembered him helping me with algebra, wanted to say something soft, but the rest of me had spent 2 years becoming someone who didn't fold. "Then you understand why I can't do this. I'm your father, Tessa. You chose not to be. For 2 years, you chose Jolene's version of me over a 30-second phone call. You let Mom and Kyle and 3 aunts pile on without correcting a single one of them. And then you came back, not because you missed your daughter, but because you needed her signature." He didn't argue. He just breathed. "I hope you figure out retirement, Dad. I really do. But I'm not your backup plan. Tessa, good night." I hung up and dried my hands on the dish towel. Marcus appeared in the kitchen doorway. Was that him? "Yeah, you okay?" I draped the towel over the oven handle, lined up the edges, and smoothed it flat. "Yeah," I said, "I'm okay." He nodded and went back to his game. I finished the dishes. "Here's what happened to my father. I'm going to tell you because the story doesn't work without it. And because I promised youth truth, even the parts that don't feel good, Gary went back to the factory full-time. The position he took paid $19 an hour less than what he'd been making before he stepped down for early retirement. He was 58 years old, standing on a production floor for 10 hours a day, supervised by a 33-year-old with a clipboard and a management degree. His retirement at 60 was gone. His financial advisor told him 65 at minimum, maybe 67 depending on market performance and how long he could keep working. Jolene, who had expected a life off travel and freedom by the time she was 50, started doing the math on a single factory income plus 4 kids who still needed things. Cody was 21 but working part-time. Amber was about to start community college. Tyler needed braces. Lily wanted a new phone. The argument started. Kyle could hear them through the walls. If you hadn't sent that text, Jolene said one night, according to Kyle, none of this would have happened. You told me to send it, Gary said. I told you to talk to her. You chose to burn the bridge. Interesting, isn't it? The same woman who whispered, I told you she'd stall at my daughter's birthday party, was now rewriting history at my father's dinner table. Jolene didn't want accountability. She wanted a version of events where she was the reasonable one and Gary was the hothead who ruined everything. I don't take pleasure in my father working factory floors at 58. I don't celebrate Jolene's disappointment, but I didn't create any of it. He sent the text. She lit the match. I just stopped putting out their fires. My mother felt it next. For years, Gary had been paying for Diane's health insurance through a COBRA continuation from his factory plan. It wasn't charity. It was the quiet arrangement they'd maintained since the divorce. She didn't ask for alimony. He covered her premiums. Everybody saved face. When the financial pressure hit, Gary cut it just like that. No warning, no conversation. Diane got a letter from the insurance company in October informing her that her coverage had been terminated. She was 55. She had high blood pressure, a thyroid condition, and no employer plan. Buying insurance on the marketplace at her age and health profile would cost her over $900 a month. The irony sat heavy even from a distance. My mother had sided with Gary over me, had told me to apologize, had chosen her financial arrangement over her own daughter, and now the man she'd protected had cut her loose the moment his own money got tight. She texted me 3 weeks after losing her coverage. I should have stood by you. 5 words. I read them sitting on the floor of Nora's nursery while my daughter slept in the crib above me. I read them 3 times. I didn't respond, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I wasn't ready. An apology delivered only after the consequences arrive isn't the same as an apology delivered when it costs something. My mother was sorry now because being wrong had finally become expensive. Marcus asked me that night if I was going to write back. Someday, I said. Maybe, but not today, not today. He kissed the top of my head and went to check on Nora. I stayed on the couch, holding my phone, reading those 5 words one more time before I put it away. Kyle was the one I didn't expect. When Gary tightened the belt, Kyle felt it immediately. The rent subsidy gone. The truck insurance Gary co-signed canceled. At 28, my little brother found himself standing in a studio apartment in Reynoldsburg, paying his own rent for the first time in his life, eating frozen burritos, and trying to figure out where his money went every month. He called me in December. Snow on the ground. Nora was crawling by then, pulling herself along the coffee table like a tiny, determined explorer. Tessa, I need to say something. Okay, I'm sorry. He didn't follow it with but. He didn't explain it away or ask me to do something. He just let it sit there. I was a coward, he said. I knew what Dad did was wrong and I went along with it because it was easier because he was paying my bills and I didn't want to rock the boat. That's not an excuse, it's just what happened. I was quiet for a long time. I appreciate that, Kyle. I'm not asking you to fix anything. I'm not asking you to sign anything. I just wanted you to hear it from me. I hear it. And I'm sorry about what I said before your wedding. Way to ruin everything. That was garbage. I should have been there. Yeah, you should have. Another silence. I could hear him breathing. Somewhere in the background, a heater kicked on. "Can I meet Nora sometime?" he asked. "Not with Dad, not with anyone, just me." I looked at my daughter, who was currently trying to eat a sock. "Give me some time," I said. "Take all the time you need." He hung up, and for the first time in 2 years, someone in my family had apologized without asking for something in return. The aunts disappeared. Patty, Linda, Brenda, the 3 women who texted me hours before my wedding to call me selfish, ungrateful, and a disappointment to my dead grandmother, went completely silent. No calls, no cards, no Hallmark sunrises about forgiveness. I didn't chase them. I didn't send a triumphant message or a told you so group text. I didn't post anything on social media. I didn't need to. The truth traveled on its own. Gary had spent the previous year telling everyone, his bowling league, his neighbors, the guys at the VFW, about his early retirement plan. He talked about it the way some men talk about a boat they're going to buy someday soon, just around the corner. When someday turned into 7 more years on the factory floor, people asked questions, and Gary, who was never good at lying under pressure, told them enough for the story to assemble itself. Bits and pieces leaked through church potlucks, grocery store conversations, and the small town network that moves faster than Wi-Fi. By February, the aunt's friends at First Methodist knew the whole picture. Gary had downed his daughter by text before her wedding, gone silent for 2 years, then came back only when he needed her signature on a financial document, and his daughter, the one they'd called selfish, said no. Aunt Brenda ran into Marcus's mother, Patricia, at the Kroger on Henderson Road. Patricia didn't say a word about it. She just smiled and asked how Brenda's Aylas were doing. Brenda, according to Patricia, went pale. I didn't orchestrate any of this. I didn't have to. When you build your story on a lie, you don't need someone to knock it down. You just need time. And eventually, even the people who piled on start to wonder if they were standing on the wrong side. 6 months after the unsigned document, here's where things stand. I still don't talk to my father. I don't hate him. I don't wish bad things on him. I just don't have a place for him in my life right now. Not until he can look at me and see his daughter instead of a signature line. Jolene and I have exchanged 0 words since Nora's birthday party. That feels about right. My mother and I are still in a pause. Her text, "I should have stood by you," sits in my phone like a seed I haven't decided whether to water. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But when I do, it'll be because I'm ready, not because she's pressured me into it. Kyle and I text sometimes, short messages, a photo of his new apartment, a question about a recipe, a link to a funny video. We're not close yet, but he's the only one who apologized without attaching a request, and that matters. The 3 aunts remain silent. I don't expect that to change. Nora is walking now. She toddles across the kitchen floor and grabs my leg when she wants to be picked up. She has no idea she has a grandfather she's never met. Someday I'll have to explain that, but not yet. The IRA sits in my name, untouched, growing. I haven't withdrawn a penny. Grandma Ruth's money is Nora's college fund now. That's what I decided. The woman who kept butterscotch candy on her counter and gave away tomatoes in paper bags will pay for her great-granddaughter's education. That feels right. Every Thursday, I still see Dr. Adler. "Do you feel guilty?" she asked me last week. No, I said I feel sad that I had to choose, but I'd make the same choice again. People will tell you that family is everything. And maybe it is when family treats you like you're something. My father didn't lose his retirement because I refused to sign a piece of paper. He lost it because he built his entire future on the assumption that I would always give in, that I would always say yes, that I would drive 2 hours, buy the gift, cut the names, rearrange my wedding, sign the document, because that's what Tessa does. I spent 29 years being the daughter who said yes. All it took was one no to find out what I was actually worth to them. And here's what I learned. When someone only reaches out because they need something from you, that's not love, that's an invoice. My father didn't want a relationship, he wanted access. Jolene didn't want reconciliation, she wanted the narrative to shift in her favor. My mother didn't want peace, she wanted her premium paid. And the aunts didn't want justice. They wanted to feel righteous without doing any homework. Every one of them had 2 years to pick up the phone and say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong. Tell me what happened." Nobody did. They came back when the money ran out. Grandma Ruth knew. She sat in that recliner with an oxygen tube in her nose and squeezed my hand and told me not to let anyone claim what was mine. She didn't mean just the money. She meant my time, my peace, my right to say no without being punished for it. She left me that account because she knew that one day someone in this family would try to take something I wasn't willing to give. And she wanted me to have proof, not of my value, but of hers. She valued me enough to protect me from them. Today is a Sunday. I'm sitting on the back porch of our little house in Westerville. The yard is small, maybe 40 ft to the fence, but Nora treats it like a national park. She's out there right now, crouching over a patch of dirt, poking at something with a stick. She's got her father's focus and her great-grandmother's stubbornness. Marcus is at the grill flipping burgers, arguing with the charcoal. Richard and Patricia pulled up 20 minutes ago, Richard with a six-pack of root beer. Patricia with a bowl of Kleslaw she made from scratch. They're at the patio table watching Nora dig. This is my family now. Not the biggest, not the loudest, but every single person sitting in this yard chose to be here. Nobody was guilted. Nobody was bribed. Nobody showed up with a manila envelope. Nora runs over and grabs my knee with muddy fingers. Up, she says. I lift her onto my lap. She smells like grass and sunscreen and something sticky I don't want to identify. You know what Grandma Ruth used to say? I whisper to her. She blinks at me. She used to say that no is a complete sentence. Nora has no idea what I'm talking about. She reaches for my iced tea. I move the glass and kiss her forehead. Someday I'll teach her what that means. That she's allowed to set a boundary and not apologize for it. That she can love someone and still say no. That silence when it's chosen is not the same as silence when it's forced. My name is Tessa Mayers. I'm 31. I said 4 words and my father's retirement plan collapsed. But I didn't say them to punish him. I said them because for the first time in my life, I meant them. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it made you feel something, whether it's anger, relief, or just a quiet, "Yeah, me too," I'd love to hear about it. Drop your story in the comments. And if you know someone who needs to hear that they're allowed to say no to family, share this video with them. I've linked 2 more stories in the description that I think you'll connect with. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'm Tessa and I'm glad you're